Hello and welcome to How to Win the Lottery, Ohio book number 1, The Bluest by Toni Morrison. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
Oh mio mio.
It's you, Ohio. It's our 107th book.
Wow.
First.
That's more books than most people read in their dang lives.
And we've done it in, I don't know how long this has been going, 4 years maybe? That feels right.
Yeah, that's a long time. I didn't think it would last this long.
This is Ohio. This is our 5th state we're doing. We just, spoiler, recorded our next one. It's a banger. Not our next one, but our next state drawing.
Yeah, we don't know if it's a banger yet.
You know,
it's a shot in the dark.
All of these things, it's the idea, the possibility of what it could be, and then you're like, oh, it just means that you have to like actually do work.
You know what's interesting to me is that there are enough states in a row that like I've been a little disappointed by that being the state.
Oh,
that like it feels like we're stockpiling the good states to me.
Yeah,
which is it's a bit like eating all of your vegetables at the beginning of your meal so that you only have.
Louisiana was cool. We were cool about it.
Yeah,
Delaware's fine. Kentucky is fine. Vermont is fine. Ohio is fine.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like we haven't hit on any of the ones that I really like put together within like where I was like, yeah, this one's going to fucking rule.
Now, I probably asked you last week when we announced it was Ohio. I asked you a version of the question for the next one. Are there states you don't want to do?
No.
So it's just like,
it's fine.
It's not like bad states. You're just like fine states versus good states.
Yeah. There are states where I'm generally unfamiliar with the work that I've selected.
But if I asked you the Jokers, are they like geography themed? They're just modules.
Yeah. Should they be geography themed? Should it be like Japan?
No, we got to do Japan. We got to do countries after we do states.
Yeah, that's never going to happen.
How many countries are there? Like 200?
I don't know. Ask your friend who kept saying that Chechnya wasn't a country. Chechnya is, to be fair, I'm alone in this. Almost everyone is going to say that Chechnya is not a country. They're going to say that it is part of Russia. Those people are wrong.
The United Nations recognizes 193 member states.
Right.
There's also the Holy See, Vatican City, shout out to the Pope, and the state of Palestine.
And like Taiwan,
well,
right? Do they recognize Taiwan?
I don't know. Britannica says 193. List of countries here is...
Let's go through them from the beginning.
Taiwan is listed in 193.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I wouldn't have thought that they were as politically bold as to do such a move as that.
The United Nations keeps it real.
No, they do. No, I don't. They do not.
One of our good friends' wife works for the United Nations.
And she's the best.
In the United Nations? She doesn't work for the United Nations. She works in the United Nations.
She is a senior policy advisor for...
A cool country.
A cool country, yeah.
Today, though, we are talking about Ohio. Shreds, I got some famous people from Ohio. I noticed a trend here.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of these people I would not associate with Ohio.
Okay, let's just go off the top. The Kelsey brothers, Travis and Jason Kelsey.
They're from Ohio?
They are from Ohio.
They're not on the list. I would say these people are all more...
I want to say...
I would say these are all people more famous than the Kelsey brothers.
I want to say YouTubers Jake and Logan Paul.
Are they from Ohio?
Are from Ohio.
Do you know these for a fact?
Well, here's why.
Yeah.
Because the Kelsey brothers, like they grew up in Ohio, and then either Logan or Jake Paul, I think, offered them like $20 million each or something to like come and play for the Browns.
Oh.
Because it's like his home state.
Got it.
So he's like, you got to like come back and play for the Browns.
Right. It's like if LeBron never left for the decision, it was like come back and play for Cleveland.
Yeah.
You owe it to Akron.
Yeah. So, okay, LeBron's
obviously number one.
Yeah. He's the most famous.
There are 9 others. I would say these people are all like very famous.
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting about Ohio that I'm realizing now, Louisiana is also true of this, but unlike Delaware, unlike Kentucky, unlike Vermont,
yeah,
those are all kind of like, there's no huge city name of those. This, like a Cleveland book or a Cincinnati book.
Cincinnati, yeah. Brothy Gupta.
She should be, but she's not.
Cincinnati, Ohio, right?
There's one president from Ohio. He's number 6 on this list. Do you know the president from Ohio?
Can you give me an era?
I don't know.
Okay, so then it's fucking like Zachary Taylor or something like that.
No, actually, no. He's in the 1800s. I know exactly when this guy is president.
Millard Fillmore?
Nope. I don't know when he was president. This guy's from Point Pleasant, Ohio, which I think is a great town name. Yeah.
Well, because Point Pleasant, New Jersey.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know who.
Ulysses S. Grant.
Oh, all right.
Civil War.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know when he. Oh,
I
wait,
think
no,
I
I
think
know.
I think he's the last U.S. president to not have a college degree.
There was a clue in crossword this week. 5 ? U.S. presidents were this when in office, and the answer was
Gay.
Unwed, but also maybe gay.
Sure.
Number 2 went to space.
Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong from Wapakoneta. LeBron from Akron. Number 3, someone very much associated with New Jersey, but from Milan, Ohio. Late 1800s, early 1900s. Has a town named after him in New Jersey.
Oh shit. William Patterson.
No, that's a good guess. Is that a person?
Yeah.
No.
The name of my university.
I know, more famous than him.
More famous than William Patterson.
Yep.
Has a town named after him. Thomas Edison?
Thomas Edison.
All right.
Number 4, arguably the most successful director of all time, a film director.
Steven Spielberg?
Yep, from Cincinnati. Number 5, an actress featured in a Jim Gaffigan joke we talk about a lot.
Halle Berry.
Halle Berry from Cleveland.
Yeah, okay.
Number 6, you got Ulysses S. Grant. Number 7, star of an HBO show and its spin-off / legacy sequel series. Star. HBO show, and then there's like a reboot legacy series sequel.
Sarah Jessica Parker?
Sarah Jessica Parker from Nelsonville, Ohio. Number 8, one of the greatest golfers ever.
Jack Nicklaus.
Yes, Columbus. Number 9, Cleveland rocks.
Drew Carey.
Drew Carey from Cleveland. And number 10, brothers, I would say I associate, they're from Dayton, but I also associate them with another state specifically.
Brothers.
Yeah. From, again, sort of Edison times, maybe before.
Oh, the Wright brothers?
The Wright brothers.
You think
from
of them as
Dayton.
North Carolina?
Yeah, Kitty Hawk.
Yeah. Well, Ohio and North Carolina have a like little like first in flight versus
Where flight started.
birthplace of aviation.
So it was born in Ohio, but
rivalry.
it actually flew.
Yeah. So it's like, well, one of you has to bow down.
Yeah, Ohio, get the fuck out of the way.
And then Allison Janney is from Dayton, Ohio.
Joe's wife's aunt.
Allison Janney?
Yes.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
So did you know that she was from Dayton, Ohio?
I did not.
She's from Dayton, Ohio.
Cool. Bluest Eye. A book not
Tony, I think Toni Morrison also from Ohio.
probably
by the way.
does not need to be in Ohio, but also, you know.
No, it kind of but it's specific to Black Americans leaving the South in the wake of freedom from slavery and sort of running from Jim Crow,
Yeah.
moving to what is like the North, but
Yes.
then also recognizing that in the North,
Things aren't necessarily better.
yeah, things are not. There's all different kinds of cages and all different kinds of oppressions, and the North is a little bit different. A lot of this is covered
Sinners.
by in Sinners, sure. I was going to say by Randy Newman in his album Good Old Boys.
Oh. Although Sinners is kind of like a reverse situation. Like they're from the South, they went to the North, and they went back to the South.
Yeah, but he talks about how Chicago is like not all it's cracked up to be because
Right.
it's still these.
Like you got Jim Crow up there. It's like,
yeah, there's still the racisms of your 1930s or whatever. When does that movie take place?
32, 33.
32?
And this is 41. Mostly sort of like current day is 41, you know, the couple years leading up to 39 or 41 maybe.
I like that they were like, oh, we're going at the Irish in this one. Fuck the Irish.
Yeah. They're all vampires.
As a you know, visibly Irish person myself, I enjoyed the dig.
I don't remember what fake last name I gave you that you hated, but I think it was Irish.
Yeah, it was probably like O'Shaughnessy or something.
Probably.
Well, everyone knows that my last name is Kolkova.
Did you think in Sinners, did you go in knowing it's a vampire movie?
Yeah.
Did you think
They
that would have
ruined that in the fucking previews.
it would have been good to not, because like it comes so late in the movie.
They should have from dusk, because it is essentially from dusk till dawn, right? It is like very similar to that, and right down to like they're trapped inside a bar
Yep.
with the vampires like all outside trying to get in.
Because I was pitching to my dad when I was visiting the family in Texas, and I was just like, you want to see this vampire movie with me? And then like the first like hour 20, just like, well, he didn't see it because he was resting, but I was just like, oh, there's no vampires. I'm like, I wish I didn't know this,
Yeah,
but also, you know,
yeah.
whatever. Anyway,
Spoilers for Sinners.
that is a vampire movie. The trailer.
Yeah, I don't know. You're right.
That's what the marketing did. Okay, so Bluest Eye, Toni Morrison. I read this book in high school.
You did. This was your second read of it.
Yes, I don't really remember much about it.
Yeah, this is like my fifth read of it, I think, because I read it in grad school 3 times.
By choice or just for three different classes?
Like it was for some reason it was like the book that we kept reading.
We in high school in AP English, my senior year, read 5 books as a class, and this was one of them. Mm-hmm. And then in the summer before that class, you were supposed to read one of the 5 books to sort of familiarize yourself, and then also a book from a list of other. There's like 30 other books or whatever that were like related. And so I started reading Crime and Punishment because we had to read that. I'm like, let me just get the hard one out of the way. And I'm like, it's the summer. What am I doing? So I switched to this.
Yeah.
And I read this and Beloved.
Okay. I would argue that Beloved is a harder book than Crime and Punishment, but...
Well, Beloved was my optional one, but I was just like, well, the Toni Morrison thing, like...
Yeah.
Crime and Punishment, once you get into it, is fine.
Yeah, it's also completely humorless and...
Long
and sort of... Like, it has a lot of the tropes of your modern day, like, crime stuff, and it moves, but it's also, like... Dostoevsky is dry.
Tough for a 17-year-old.
A lot of like lectures on faith and morality and no humor to it. Whereas Toni Morrison is legitimately funny, has a real ear for dialect and dialogue. Like the way that characters speak to each other feels so much like actual characters speaking to each other.
Yep.
Especially in the like children speaking and talking shit to each other stuff. It's like it's remarkable how in tune with that she is. It's like she never forgot how like she interacted with people when she was a kid or something like that.
Well, I think she was she young? Because this is her debut novel. How old? Do you know how old she was?
She was not that young when this book came out because she had an entire career earlier than this as an editor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what other books of hers. I might have read one other one, but other than Bluest Eye and Beloved, what are her big ones?
Sula, Jazz, Song of Solomon.
I read Song of Solomon.
Okay.
Yeah.
All of them take place in Ohio.
Cool.
I think. I'm pretty sure all of them do. Paradise is another book of hers that takes place in Ohio. Yeah, what'd you think?
Great.
It's undeniable. It is like it's a book that is so good, and the language in it is so free flowing and beautiful on a sentence by sentence basis.
Yep.
And the symbolism is so there but not forced on you. And it is frightening in the ways that it's meant to be frightening, and it is sympathetic in ways that are shocking. Like there's sympathy for characters that in lesser novels you would never, ever find sympathy for, like child rapists.
Well, I think there's a thing that this book does that it reminded me a lot of The Overstory in that it is like, this is generational trauma.
Yeah.
These people are all broken because everyone before them was broken because the country kind of broke them or just victim circumstance or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think she does a really good job of like this girl who is young and poor and ugly and whatever, how she's described in the book, is that way because going back and looking at all the things that have happened to her, like society has done to her, her family has done to her, has happened to her family. And
then it's all there's so much stuff in there. Like she is, she loves drinking milk from the Shirley Temple glass, and Shirley Temple is like the model of like beautiful girlhood at the time because she's like a doll, right? And like that's obviously like that model comes specifically from whiteness, and she's drinking milk from the cup, which is like nurturing and like it's so she's like feeding on this idea, and she's feeding on it at like a accelerated and almost alarming rate where remember Claudia and Frida's mom is like, who drank 3 quarts of milk? And it's just because Peccola loves the Shirley Temple mug so much, and she keeps drinking the milk of like white beauty.
Right.
And there's that level of symbolism. There's the Dick and Jane,
like the story,
which is like, those are reading primers that are meant for little kids, but they're
incredibly white.
They're all white. Yeah. And it's like, so when you're teaching kids to read, you're showing them like the standard of the American family, like see dad, see mom, see this, see that. And it's all like, you're just seeing these white families interact, and then when they're given gifts, they're given gifts of white dolls. And Claudia like kind of has the good sense, but it's a little disturbing of like destroying the white dolls because she knows that like that beauty is not for her, and in some ways that beauty is corrupting her. And then you have something as I feel like I'm moving really fast through a lot of this stuff, but there's a lot to talk about. There's stuff like Maureen Peale, who is the high yellow child who like everyone, even the boys, are intimidated by her beauty. But I think Claudia describes her braids as being lynch ropes. And it's like, oh yeah, that is the beauty that will kill you.
Yep.
Like it is like her beauty takes on a violent symbolism because that beauty is the type of beauty that makes you do internal violence to yourself because you can't achieve it. Right.
Well, it's also like the same reason that Piccola's dad has the internal violence, like why he takes it on other people, because he has been forever destroyed by white people or by society or by racism or whatever, right? Like he hates himself and he hates the women around him because
and this touches on like more than racism, although certainly race comes into it, but this idea of like his thing is masculinity.
Yep.
Right? It's that he is interrupted in like the first act of sex that he's ever had. Mm-hmm. He's interrupted by white hunters at gunpoint, sort of make him continue having sex with the girl, but he can't. He's
a girl that he like has a crush on, like he is actually into,
and but he's made impotent by that, and in his being made impotent, he doesn't even consider hating the hunters because it's like that is like hating.
Well, he would realize the way of the world. Like I think that there's a line in there that says something like he would realize how powerless he is that if he actually directed his hate in the right direction, whereas if he hates the women or he hates his wife or hates his daughter or whatever, he regains, like you're saying, the masculinity or the power or the whatever.
Yeah, it's like hating the sun. You can't do, the sun gives you cancer or whatever, but you can't do anything about it. So you make your anger about the cancer about something else.
Yep.
And so he directs it at the woman who's just as much a victim of these hunters as he is. And he like turns all his hate on that. And then that hate evolves into his hate for others. And then you have Pauline whose idea of beauty is Greta Garbo, right? And then in the moment of her imitation of Greta Garbo, she pulls a tooth out of her head accidentally, and it's like the world is doing a reminder to her saying, "You're not that."
And she realized, like, it's that moment where she's just like, "Well, then fuck it all."
Yeah, it's just like, you can't be that, so don't try it. And so this is something that happens over and over again through the book. It's this reminder of powerlessness among these individual characters. Partially, the shame of it is that they accept their powerlessness because we recognize in other forms that powerlessness can be overcome, right? Because we have Peccola and Pauline and Charlie, and they've been destroyed by all of these individual things. But we also recognize within the prostitutes, for example, China, Magnoline, those characters don't give a fuck about anything. And so like their power comes from just being like, I don't give a fuck about that.
Right.
And so like they're the characters in the book that seem like they're having the most fun. Even when Frida and Claudia tell the Magnoline that they're like, oh, you're ruined. That's why my parents won't let us in to see you. And she throws the bottle at them, which is something that could be really scary. It ends up being something that like she's laughing about. And it's like, oh, she's just like still like, she doesn't even care what these kids think. She's kind of having fun with them, but she has to let them know that they can't talk to her like that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And they're also characters that can afford to be nice.
Right.
Because they've given up on like this idea that they're going to be accepted in society, which they're not going to be accepted in society anyway. But like, because none of these characters.
Well, when you say society, like white society, or are you just talking about like even like in the black community in which, or I guess they're mostly in like a largely, like what society do you mean when you say they're not going to be accepted?
I mean like the conventional white power structure of whatever like the world, it makes up the world during that time period. Like they're a level down from, for example, Claudia and Frida's parents who do say like, don't talk to those people because they're prostitutes.
Right.
Don't talk to them. But like their power, the prostitute's power comes from being just like, I don't know, man. Like this is my life. I have a lot of love. Like I have fun doing what I do. And whether or not that's a lie or they're lying to themselves isn't their story. But I don't think Morrison.
But they still show compassion toward kids in a area where other people don't.
They're very nice to Peccola the entire time. And also like if like we're not meant to look down on them. Like there's nothing that Morrison does that makes us, the reader, think like these people are less human than anybody else. Like if anything, we're like, that's where I want to be in this book.
Yeah.
I want to be hanging out with those people because they seem like they're having fun.
Yeah. I think going back to what you were saying before about like remembering or never forgetting how kids speak, like I love how much of this book is just like I saw in your Goodreads review that it was like it's a largely plotless book, but like the plot for the like most of the book is telling the story of Piccola's family and their history. But like the current day plot is just like two little girls who like want to get their period and want to get drunk.
It's plotless in a weird way because it'll be like, here's a chapter about this, but then like now we're going to do an entire chapter about Soaphead Church, who has not been in the book at all up until this point. So now we're going to like direct our sympathies.
Well, that's like a very like like a modern, like a prestige TV thing to do, where it's like, this is an episode about a single character that like was kind of a little bit or maybe not at all. And like, we're not going to come back to him.
Yeah.
Also, I'm realizing one of the things that I hate the most about movies, which Sinners does, which is starting at the end and working its way back. Like, don't do that. Just stop that. When a book does that, I don't mind it. I actually like it. Which when like in the first like 3 pages when it says like Charlie is dead and Piccola's having her father's baby and like whatever. I'm just like,
I think because in a book it's like almost like weirdly enough like almost expecting you to forget that information. So that like as you move through it, you're just, and then when it comes back, you're like, oh, that's right. It like the first line of this book said that like she was having her dad's baby.
Like that's the same thing that Donna Tartt does in Secret History, right? It's like talking about like Bunny dying or whatever, and it's just like, well, hold on, who's Bunny?
Yeah, so. But it also gives us this thing where if you can hold in your head that Piccola is having her father's child, all of the scenes with her become like way more. Like you know,
there's like a gallows. Like she's like,
this character's never getting up. She's getting beaten for the entire book, and she has a cat thrown in her face, and she drops the blueberry pie and burns her legs, and her mother just pays attention to the white child who's complaining, and like she doesn't have any wins in this book until the end, and that win is like one that on the outside we're just like, not a win, girl. Mm-hmm. Like you think that that's a win, but you're a crazy lady in the street now.
Yeah. Very sad.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
There's also something about the childhood naivete that I really like where it's in the beginning and at the end where they talk about like, well, if we plant the flowers and they grow, Piccola's baby will live. Yeah. Or if you feed the food, I mean, this is also like a underhanded whatever, like if you feed the food to the dog and the dog acts weirdly, you'll get the blue eyes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever did this, but like it reminded me like when I was a kid, I'm like, if I make this basketball shot, like that girl at school likes me.
Sure. Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, sweet, I made it. And like, now what? Like, it's like, like there's wish fulfillment, but it's like, there's nothing to do about it. And I like, there's something so innocent about that when like the little girls are trying, like the 10-year-old and 12-year-old or 8 and 10 or whatever, are just like, we want our friend's baby, like a baby born out of like horrendous circumstances or like impregnated due to horrendous circumstances. Like we want that baby to live. We don't really know what that means.
Right.
But we're going to try really hard. If we plant these flowers, then it'll work. And then the flowers don't bloom. And it's like, well.
Yeah. I love the chapters that are narrated by Claudia because they're so, like, I guess she's speaking from an adult's point of view, recollecting, but they're so beautiful.
And first person after a whole module of second person stuff.
Yeah. And this book is weird because it's like, she's the narrator, but then she's not the narrator. Like it's first person until it's not first person. And she's, and there's like all this stuff that she couldn't possibly see.
Well, I was also thinking about like how unusual, but then also I think it actually is less unusual than I think, like for the narrator to not really be at all involved in the story. Like she's there, but she's telling somebody else's story.
Yeah. It is like Nick Carraway or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is a better book than that book.
This has it been adapted? Oh, it has been adapted. Hold on.
Has it? I wouldn't want to watch it. Because it's like one thing to like the magic of this book is in the language, I think, and in like you can sympathize with Charlie because of the construction of how he comes to be the person who rapes his daughter, and then your sympathy is largely like one of sadness, and like he's a monster, but he's a monster that you look at and you go, he didn't have to be a monster, it didn't have to be like that. Watching a movie where that happens is a different thing entirely.
Never a movie. 3 different plays.
Yeah.
Steppenwolf Theater in 2005, Phantom Projects in La Mirada, California in 2010, and the Guthrie Theater in 2017.
Okay.
And then Todd Quelly used it as an inspiration for his song Thieves in the Night with Mos Def on his Black Star album.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's also been banned in a bunch of places. I'm just looking on the wiki page now.
I can see why it's been banned. I mean, obviously, I think it's stupid that it's been banned, but like as far as the content is concerned,
I was thinking like when you get to like the most like some of the graphic like things about like the sex scenes, I'm just like I was 17 when I was reading this.
yeah.
But like,
I thought when I was reading it, I was like, I would like to teach this book, and then I thought I could not teach this book in high school.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And like what's especially tough, even tougher, I think perhaps, is that like so much of it is around kids. Like it's things happening to kids. I mean, like a lot of the other sex is like adults or consenting adult, like at least to a certain point, consenting adults, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah, or even like, you know, Charlie and the girl in when the hunters, like they're not adults, but it's like there's something about it that is still like, I don't know. But like, yeah, you can't, the stuff with like Charlie and Piccola like you can't like, I wouldn't want to watch a movie where something like that happened.
No. And it happens again. We don't see it.
Yeah.
But when she has like her, for lack of a better phrase, like has her brain broken by the rape, but also by the dog, bluest eye, not happening, whatever. She's like, well, there's the second time on the couch. It's like, wait, hold on, what? Like we didn't, but yeah, of course.
And it's like an interesting thing is like you have the juxtaposition of these two models of an American family, and you have the Charlie, Pauline, Piccola, and Sammy family, which starts and is like you're immediately shown the violence of that because Charlie's beating up the mom, and then Sammy steps in, and then Charlie accidentally burns the house down, so Piccola has to move in with Claudia and Frida for a little while, and they get a new place in a storefront where they're staying in like a storefront.
Charlie himself dies in a fire too, right? Like at a warehouse or something, or he dies in a warehouse.
Is that what happens eventually?
Yeah. So I reread the first first chapter after I finished it, and I think it's a warehouse fire, but I think he knows that he dies in a warehouse.
Yeah. And so and you know, Pauline fulfills her role, her domestic role outside of the family. She fulfills it with like the white family, where she becomes the
maid.
Yeah, almost like a mammy figure, where she's really like worshipped by this young child, but the young child infantilizes her, calls her Polly, whereas the Sammy and Piccola have to call her Mrs. Breedlove, and she doesn't get the level of respect outside of her home in this white family's home, but she also gets something that she's not getting at home, which is a kind of
fulfillment,
satisfaction, bliss. She knows
admiration.
She knows that her children are never going to like attain the beauty of this white child or whatever.
I'll also say the name Breedlove is pretty a little on the nose, but also like it's not maybe super overt. Like only thinking about it, it's not like it's, I don't know, but yeah.
And then that's juxtaposed with Claudia and Frida's family, which is you know, they're hard on them. The mother's hard on them, whips them with the switch and whatever. But like when like I forget the guy's name, but when the guy like like gropes Frida or whatever, the dad immediately reacts violently, kicks him out of the house, borrows the neighbor's gun, throws a tricycle at the guy's head, immediately reacts the way that like anyone would want their dad to react in that circumstance, because he's concerned for his daughter, and like that's where the concern comes from, right? Like from being a father. Whereas you get the sense that Charlie his role as a father is almost non-existent to him.
Correct.
It's not something that he thinks of.
It's just Pauline's role to raise them as best as she can.
Yeah.
I also think that there is something funny about you just talking about the abuse. I'm just also contrasting your actual insights about it with just like things that I liked about the book, but like the conversation that Claudia and Frida have about, like we charred the Brussels sprouts, like there was the vegetable or whatever that like got really burnt and they're inedible. It's like, well, would we rather have no vegetable and getting whipped,
right? Or
eating the bad vegetables and not getting whipped?
Which like, again, that's such like a fun like kid conversation to have.
It's also really dark, but it's in the moment. It's very funny to me that it's just like, well,
and also it gives you a sense that the whipping that they're getting is not like
right. Yeah.
It's not something that it's not an Adrian Peterson style whipping.
Arrested.
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
I like the novel bounces around. Like, I think that, again, I don't want to see a movie of this. Like, if it was told linearly, if it was told in a different form, I think it would be less impactful.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think it's constructed in a way that feels really loose, but it's obviously like labored over significantly.
Well, that's probably like the editor in her, right? Like that's
for sure.
It's not just that she has had a lifetime to like think of a story she wants to tell. It's also like how to tell the story.
Yeah.
Knowing what to do.
She was also, I think Toni Morrison was I want to say single mom, and she was like writing this book while having the day job as an editor. So she was like, I think writing this book between like 4:30 and 7 a.m. and then like waking up her kids and then putting her kids at, and then going to work and then you know, making dinner at home for the kids and then putting the kids to sleep and then going to bed and then waking up and writing. So she had like a really, before this book came, she had a really like interesting process. She's also, before Bob Dylan, controversial win, the last American to win a Nobel Prize.
Or is it Lifetime?
Yeah, Nobel is the lifetime body of work.
Got it.
Which is deserved. She's, any conversation about like the greatest American author, you have to include Toni Morrison in.
Ohio.
Probably the greatest author from Ohio.
Born in Lorain, Ohio.
Yeah, which is where the book takes place, right?
Yep. Died in
Princeton, New Jersey.
the Bronx.
The Bronx, really?
That's what Wiki says.
Okay. I know she taught at Princeton for forever.
This book came out in 70, then Sula in 73, Song of Solomon in 77, Tar Baby, Beloved. Those are the notable ones.
So that she slowed down after, because I know her last novel, Home, was not that good.
Yeah, she did 70, 73, 77, 81, 87, 92, 98, 2003, 2008, 2012, 2015. She did God Help the Child after Home. And then some children's books.
I think God Help the Child is nonfiction.
No, it's a novel.
Really? Mm-hmm. Huh. Interesting.
Its original title was The Wrath of Children.
Okay.
Other things to talk about with The Bluest Eye? I'm sure there's a lot more to talk
what
about.
What do you think of Soaphead Church? What do you think of taking the end of the novel and being like, let's briefly show this pedophile and talk about him? And like why is that in the book?
Well, I think that there's, number one, I think whether it's by design or not, I think you mentioned earlier, it is very interesting that she is able to at all humanize someone like that. I think it also, maybe importantly, gives Pigla an out, that she does not have to confront the reality of a situation. She is able to escape, and still is broken by it, but like into like this magical realism of a world where only she sees her blue eyes.
Yeah.
As opposed to, because like from there, when she walks around and people look at her, it's because of being raped and
right. And she thinks everyone's turning their eyes away because they don't want to acknowledge how beautiful my eyes are.
Yep.
Like they're all jealous of me because of my beautiful eyes.
Mm-hmm. The bluest eyes.
Who's she talking to at the end of the book? In the italics.
Herself, maybe her kid.
Yeah.
Something. She also, like, in that conversation, it's just like, I don't know if mom can see you. Like, mom doesn't address you. Why is that?
Right.
Like, she's like almost there, almost figuring it out. But
do you think, because you read this and then you read Beloved back to back, right?
Yeah, this is 23 years ago.
23 years ago. But because I'm sure we'll read
That's
Beloved
a great American novel.
eventually. Yeah, because that is a great American novel, right? That's one of the...
It's one of the 10? The 10 duos, or no?
Yeah, so like...
Oh, wait, you have a bunch of duos.
Yeah, but of the 10, like every time we remove one, I add another. So it's like there's always going to be 10 that we can pick from. But she does... It's interesting, if you read these two books back to back, she embraces a kind of similar trick, which is she's using trauma... She's using magical realism as a symbol for the trauma of a million terrible things.
Yes.
So it's like, this is a ghost story, but the ghost is not a ghost. The ghost is slavery and these awful things that have happened. And the bluest eye, the eye is her eye is blue, but it's like that is a shield that she's erected, psychotically erected as a means of like justifying the people in town turning away from her and in making her life worth living, giving her some reason to, be able to look at herself in the mirror.
Yes. And also, I guess the same way with Maureen, right? It's like blue eyes are not necessarily typically associated with like there's something literally magical possibly.
Yeah, well, Maureen is half black.
Right.
And so...
But still, like, I don't know how to say what I want to say without coming off even like I'm not trying to be like, just in terms of like passing, in terms of like there's a beauty to her that everyone who is mean to everyone is not mean to her because she is able to.
Well, because she wields the power of whiteness,
yeah.
and there's like colorism for sure, and so like, and you still have this in America now, in that like there's a million ways in which light-skinned people are like light-skinned black people are still like privileged over darker and darker skinned people, right?
Yeah.
Their colorism is very much a thing. And so I imagine you can watch Spike Lee's movie School Days, where like a lot of that is about colorism within historically black college university, which is like, if anywhere, you would think that would be the type of place that tried to eradicate that kind of thinking.
But maybe it's worse there.
But you see actually like, because privilege is such a tempting thing, and because it's very hard to, might be even impossible to actually reject privilege, because privilege is something that you don't like accept. It's just something that you have.
Right.
That it's hard to get rid of. So Maureen has that power just because of, the structure of the like coercive power structures in society for the previous 200 years. Right. So she's where she is, not through her fault, but she is wielding a power that she doesn't, it's like an unearned power, and that power ends up hurting people because power hurts people.
Right.
I will say, and I said this in a text message to Heather and Meg, it's terrible about all the trauma of Piccola's life and everything that she's gone through. Your daddy sleep naked is like an all-time good schoolyard taunt to someone. like saying to someone like, oh yeah, well your daddy sleeps naked. Like that is such a funny thing to say to someone as an insult.
It's funny because it's not about her. It's something she can do.
Yeah.
It's also probably true. Even if it's not true, it's like it's very specific.
Yeah. And then tragically, it's also like a foreshadowing of like the sexualization of someone's father and like whatever. But yeah, it's funny. The your daddy sleeps naked thing made me laugh.
Yeah. Want to read Egg's email?
Yeah, I think I get the sense that it's a long one, right? Because I know she had a lot to say about this book.
Pretty long. Meg's reaction to The Bluest Eye. If you want to email in lottery@cageclub.me, Meg says, this was my second time reading The Bluest Eye. The first time was when I was in high school, and it was wasted on me then.
Yeah, see, I think it's interesting, because teaching a book like this in high school, I like it because it could be the type of book that opens up like a thought pattern within someone, and also gives you even if you don't get it, even if you like it's lost on you, like it's something that you'll go like, I gotta revisit that book.
Well, I think it's a thing. It's sort of like you're screening, or you are trying to filter out like showing 17-year-olds like great movies too. It's like it's gonna be lost on them, but like for the few of them who like either it works on them then, or they just like they're like, oh, there's something here, and I can't appreciate this now, but
I'll go back to it, and I'll look at it. So yeah, I think teaching kids great literature, and this is also not a book that's like as dusty as something like Silas Marner or something like that.
Meg writes, there was a lot of juxtaposition within this novel. The first example is when Frida's father running off Mr. Henry when he, quote, picked at her, but Piccola's father is the one who raped his daughter.
Yeah.
Then there's the fact we talked about a little bit ago. Then there's the fact that the only adults who help Piccola are the, quote, ruined ones. It's a known child molester, Soaphead Church, which I don't know if he really helps her.
No. Yeah. I don't think he does help her, but he has good intentions.
He says, who gives Piccola the gift of blue eyes, really just allowing her to live in a delusion that makes her sentence easier to bear. I don't know that's a very optimistic way to read that, but also I can see it.
Yeah.
I also like the way that Soaphead Church phrased it, quote, a little black girl who wanted to rise up out of the pit of her blackness and see the world with blue eyes. Specifically, the use of, quote, see the world with blue eyes rather than, quote, be seen is important here.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
To see the world with blue eyes puts both Piccola as the subject rather than object and indicates her experiencing the world as a white person because she would be seeing the world through the lens of, quote, blue eyes.
Yeah, those are great notes.
There are very few white people in this novel. I think only 3, and only one of them is named. You've got Rosemary, Claudia, and Frida's neighbor, the little girl who Mrs. Breedlove works for, and the first white woman who Mrs. Breedlove worked for.
I think there's also the guy that sells them candy.
These characters, like Claudia, don't really understand the system that they are living within, but the main difference is they do not need to learn. The little girl asks the question, but Mrs. Breedlove comforts her instead of answering her questions and allowing her to learn. And then the first woman who has Mrs. Breedlove worked for is completely out of touch as well, perhaps showing the evolution of the little girl who she comforts. Mrs. Breedlove says that the woman tells her, quote, that I should have more respect, and it was my husband's duty to pay the bills. And if he couldn't, I should leave and get alimony, all such simple stuff.
Oh, yeah. That's an infuriating part of the novel. Her saying, like, you just got to leave your husband. And it's like, well, that's not the reality for Pauline.
Yeah.
It's just not her reality. She can't do that.
Egg writes, the white woman does not understand that they live in two different worlds, that the concept of fairness of black and white within the novel are on two different axes. The greater system, the one that includes alimony for divorce, only benefits whiteness.
Yeah. All right. Go Meg. Really, like, because the system, alimony, etc., like that is conventional systemic power structures that really like do only benefit people who are like part of that power structure, right? Even if you look at something like affirmative action and things like that, it's like affirmative action has, with all of its good intentions, it has largely served to help white women.
Yep. Mrs. Breedlove's identity was interesting to me. By being referred to almost exclusively as, quote, Mrs. Breedlove, it shows that she is wife to Charlie first and foremost. She refers to herself as, quote, Pauline, but I don't think that anyone else directly calls her that. The she is never referred to as mama or mother, which shows she does not fill that role for Piccola or Sammy.
Okay, but also Mrs. Breedlove also, like, I think does, because of the like nominative determinism of that last name, right, does provide her with the idea of motherhood, but it's motherhood in a very cold and mechanistic way. It's not, she's not mama. She is Mrs. Childmaker, right? And like, so she has babies, but those babies come in a very like unloved, like, And you also get that it's so like there's also like the medical misogyny stuff, medical misogynoir stuff where they're the doctor is like, and these, he's like referring to just black women. He's like they're like horses, like they just like they have these babies, like they don't even need painkillers or whatever.
And she's like, just because I know what I'm doing doesn't mean it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, and she's also just like, fuck off, like it's so that's so brutal.
Ed goes on to say, these children are orphans in everything except for name. Also, the white girl who she works for refers to her as Polly. As Claudia notices, this is a level of closeness in the relationship not present in Mrs. Breedlove's relationship with her daughter.
It's also like, not for nothing, kind of like a pet name. Like Polly is, I've never known anyone named Polly. I'm sure there are people out there named Polly and they're not dogs or parrots or whatever. Yep. But like Polly is a
pet name.
Yeah, it's a name that you give to a pet.
It's important to note that within the novel, little white girls are not completely safe from harm either. When Claudia and Frida beat up Rosemary, she asked them if she should pull her pants down. This would be something she would ask only if she experienced something similar in the past. Even if it's not something she experienced firsthand, it's something she's aware of, part of her worldview, which shows that she is not completely naive and safe. The novel posits that the why of Piccola's situation is different to handle. And so, quote, one must take refuge in how, this is from the opening, from the novel itself does, in its way, implicitly explain the why. It presents the domino effects of the system within which each character has experienced life, ending with the tragedy of Piccola. The story itself goes from Charlie's upbringing, his reason for meanness, to when he rapes Piccola for the first time. The rape scene to me felt bearable as a reader, which feels like such a fucked up thing to say. I feel like a lot of time with contemporary media, the author, writer, director, etc., feel a need to try and traumatize the reader or viewer. The scene was free of any sort of eroticism, and that made it bearable to me. And she says, so that I don't end on that note, I want to mention the scene where, how do you pronounce Maginot line?
Maginot.
But
hold on. It's also that scene in which Charlie rapes Piccola is like also weirdly bereft of brutality.
Yeah.
Because it is from his perspective, kind of. Like it's a third person perspective, but it's a third person perspective that is like centered on his experience within the rape. And so you don't get the traumatic point of view of what's going on in this very small child's head while it's happening. All you get is like you get things that are legitimately traumatic when you think about them. Like, because
Right.
he talks specifically about like her tightness, which is something that is like so fucking brutal to
Yeah.
think about when you think about it.
Yep.
But because it's written in the language of perspective, and because it's Charlie talking about it, you can almost detach from the idea of what the language means on a moment-to-moment basis. Not that you do that. You're always aware, but you're not aware of the pain and suffering. Only later, like upon reflection of the specific language used, would you be aware of the pain and suffering, or at least that's my experience. And again, that might be my experience because I'm reading it as someone that this is not part of my life.
Right.
It's not like I don't have to suffer the child rape of whatever. So I don't know how that would be read by other people. I don't know how that would be read by sexual assault victims or things like that. But I think like what's really interesting about it is that it's presented in a way that ultimately you end up with a deep amount of empathy for Piccola, but also you can understand how that monster came to become the monster that he is. Yeah. So not to disagree with you, Meg, but I think we're in a similar place to it. But I think that there's a bit that can be articulated that you're not quite saying here.
She says, so I don't end on that note. I want to mention the scene where Imagino Line threw her beer bottle at Claudia and Frida. I found it so funny. She was being nice to them, and then they insulted her by saying she was ruined. In that particular scene, I don't think the girls were in any danger. I got the impression the Imagino Line just wanted to scare them a little bit, and they kind of deserved it. All in all,
yeah,
a wonderful book.
I love that. I love that too. I mean, I talked about that scene specifically earlier. I love the Imagino Line. I love that group of prostitutes. Like, they're such a fun part of the story, and yeah, it's great. It's such a good book, such a good book, and such a book that like careens between so many different emotions, and like there's so much in it that is like about the magic of girlhood, and there's so much about it that is about the pain of that exact same girlhood, and you need all of those things to create a whole. And Toni Morrison is just magical. There's something so unbelievably good about this book and about just her like overwhelming talent.
Rest in power.
Yeah, she's incredible. I don't have enough nice things to say about her.
Our next book is Omen Setter's Luck by William Gass. I feel like for a 4-book module, the fact that we got like one, I mean, it's a known quantity, but like a great one already, like sets.
I think Omen Setter's Luck is also
okay.
I think it's also going to be a great one. And then Markley is also kind of a known quantity. So
Outside In by Doug Cooper, maybe the only one that we don't know.
Yeah. Sure. Today's crime is going to a really fancy restaurant.
Yep.
And trying to do that thing where you pull the tablecloth out, but like you just break all the plates. Theme song.